Hi, I'm Christian. Welcome back to another On the Road video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Stop. Before beginning any repair, always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. It is also recommended to test the outlet for proper voltage. Today we're working on a Whirlpool double oven. It's coming up with an error code E1F5. The error code stands for a latch failure. It could be several things. We've already tested the latch and the switches on the latch. Everything on the actual latch assembly is okay. The plunger seems to be okay. Whenever the top door is closed, the latch is activated, or at least the switches are. So we're going to start with the main control. The tools you will need to complete this repair are a flat blade screwdriver and a Phillips style screwdriver. To begin the repair, we first have to remove both doors. We're gonna start with the top door. Of course, we're gonna open the door. On the actual hinges here, we're gonna flip the latch back until it stops, right about there on both sides. Then we're gonna lift up the door till it stops. It's probably about a 45-degree angle. We're gonna lift up and out on the door. You may have to do it several times until the actual hinges are out of their latch. Then we'll set the door aside. Next is the bottom door. Same thing, we'll open the door and lift out on both sides. The next step is to remove the 4 Phillips screws that actually secure, we'll say, the side trims. We'll go ahead and remove the top one on the right side. And now we will go ahead and remove the top one on the left side. And this one also is a Phillips screw. Now we'll go ahead and do the left side at the bottom. And the right side. Now that we removed all 4 Phillips screws, we're gonna go ahead and remove the actual trim pieces. So we're gonna start at the bottom on the left side. We're just gonna flex the trim piece out of the bottom trim piece and pull it off. Once it's pulled out from the bottom, we'll go ahead and slide the top down. Just like that, and we'll set it aside. We'll do this exact same for the right side. Once the trim pieces have been removed, there are 4 mounting screws that secure the oven into the cabinet. We'll go ahead and remove the 2 bottom ones. They are both Phillips style screws. And make sure you have your torque turned up on your drill. If you're using a drill, they are a little hard to remove. And now we'll do the top. Once the 4 mounting screws have been removed, we can now pull out the oven a couple inches. Once the oven's been pulled out a couple inches, we now have access to the 4 Phillips style screws that actually mount the control panel in place. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the 2 right screws first. Next, we will remove the 2 left screws. Once the 4 mounting screws have been uninstalled, we can now loosen the actual control panel here. We're gonna tilt the bottom of the control panel towards us and lift up on the top until each top part is out of the groove. Just like that. We'll try to lay it as flat as possible here. Now that we have removed the console assembly and set it on a protective surface, we can now remove the main control board. The first thing we're gonna do is remove the touchpad ribbon cable. To do so, we're gonna push in on both of the clips. And we're gonna remove the 4 Phillips screws that secure the actual control board mount to the console assembly. There's 2 on each side. Once all of the screws have been removed, we can remove the whole main control board assembly while feeding the actual, or routing the actual ribbon cable through the opening, and we'll set the main control board assembly aside. Once the main control board's been removed, we can now remove the 5 number 2 Phillips screws that secure the bracket for the main control board so we can access the actual user interface or a touchpad. Once all the screws have been removed, we can lift up on the actual bracket and set it aside. Be careful when you're doing this because the bracket is sharp. Once the bracket's been removed, we can now remove the actual user interface, also known as the touchpad. We're just gonna lift up at an angle and then pull out. We'll set the old one aside. Be careful because it is made of glass and metal. Now that we have our new user interface, let's install it. To begin the installation, the first thing we want to do is remove the protective coating. So we're just going to peel back a corner and then pull the protective cover straight off. Once that's been removed, we can now flip the touchpad or user interface back over, and starting on the rear side, we're gonna push in the bottom through the bracket to make sure the clip is over the bracket. Now the bracket is plastic, so don't push too hard. Now that the user interface assembly has been installed, we can now remount the bracket. We're gonna fish the actual ribbon cable on the inside of the bracket, set the bracket down, and then re-secure the bracket with the 5 number 2 Phillips screws we removed earlier. Make sure that you have your torque down if you are using a drill. These screws are getting mounted into plastic, so you don't want to strip the plastic out. Now that we have our new control board, let's install it. To begin the installation of the control board, we are going to line it up and fish the ribbon cable for the user interface through the opening here. And then we will go ahead and set the actual main control board down and line it up with the screw openings. Once it's been lined up, we can remount the main control board assembly with the 4 Phillips screws we removed earlier. Once the 4 screws are secure in the control board, we can now lift up on the ribbon cable connector, pull it off, and then put it on the actual ribbon cable. Once it's on the ribbon cable, we can now insert the ribbon cable onto the actual Molex connector. So we're gonna line it up and then push it straight down. Be careful, you don't want to rip or break the ribbon cable. Once it's pushed down and it won't stop, we can now reseat the actual Molex plug. Now we can reinstall the console assembly onto the oven. To begin the installation of the main control board or console assembly, the first thing we want to do is reconnect all the wires. So we're just gonna line up the control board here as best as we can. There's a little room. You're limited to the room because of how much wire you have. So we're just gonna begin plugging in the connectors. Most of them are just gonna push straight on. So once all the connections on the main control board have been replaced to the control, we are going to reinstall the ground strap on the side. We're just going to push it straight on to the metal bracket and then reinstall the 2 Molex connectors that go to the sister control. And these also just push straight on. Now that all the Molex connectors and wire connectors have been replaced to both control boards, we can now remount the actual console assembly. To do so, we're going to line up the tabs on each side here. Once they're lined up, we'll let it sit in the tab. We'll push the console back and re-secure the 2 Phillips screws on each side. And now we will do the left side. Once the 4 screws have been installed or reinstalled, we'll go ahead and push the oven back into the cavity. And this will complete your repair. Thank you for watching another quality in-home repair video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.